Hello, relatives. Welcome to the shared experience. My name is Raven, and today I'd like to share some tips on how to enhance your spiritual development, your spiritual path, your spiritual journey, your spiritual exploration, your spiritual seeking. I'd just like to share some of my experience with how I've been able to expand on and develop my own personal awakening, and hopefully you find something helpful in this video. If you do have something else you'd like to share with me about what I said, please leave me a message in the comments. So, to begin, I would just like to first acknowledge a few things. One is that I hope that this video does not make anyone feel like they're overwhelmed and can't start, or like they're limited in any way to begin their spiritual journey or awakening. Number one is not to allow anyone to question or tell you what your spiritual journey is, or what it means to you, or what it means to them. Meaning, just because you haven't had a lot of experience, or say you're not a guru, or say you haven't been, you're new to your journey, that's why you're here, right? You can't let other people make you feel like you're not spiritually advanced, or like you're not at the same level that they are, or that you'll never get to that level either, or that someone else is better than you, or someone else knows better than you, because we're all individual and unique beings. So each of us is going to have a unique set of experiences that comes along with our spiritual practices. And so, all I'm saying is take whatever I say with a grain of salt, and take whatever anybody else says with a grain of salt. And don't beat yourself up if you think you're not where you should be, or if you're not at, or if you think for some reason you're not ready to do something. Obviously, like, be informed on what you're doing, because today, spirituality, and I'm sure in the past too, is very financially driven. So, and that's part of the reason why I struggle making these videos, is because it's hard for me to think of how people use spirituality as a way to manipulate or reciprocate or exchange. Obviously, every energetic meeting is an exchange, right? It's an exchange of energy. But I'm saying, especially, well, not especially here on YouTube, but more commonly here on YouTube, you see everybody, like, everything is an ad, right? Every spiritual thing is an ad. Every spiritual video, every tarot video you click on, there's links to websites, there's links to Cash App, there's links for payment, right? or there's links for a class they're selling you, or, whatever. And I'm not saying that you can't do that or spend your money on that. I'm just saying be careful, and don't feel obligated, don't feel pressured, and don't feel like just because you paid for something or paid for a class or paid for some knowledge that it's better than what you could get on your own. So with that said, so that's my first tip, I guess. My first tip is accept yourself where you are and don't allow anyone else to make you feel like you're less than or like you can't continue to grow and evolve and elevate and expand your spiritual experience just because you're new or you're a beginner. Because it is our birthright, right, to be spiritual beings. We are energetic beings living in a physical experience. Our first spiritual experience starts with birth, right? That is our first rite of passage, right? Never mind like all the other things that happen in the womb during those 9 months. But our first spiritual experience is when we exit that safe, watery womb space, and it's almost like a cocoon, butterfly cocoon experience. That's what I'm imagining. I don't know for sure. I'm sure if I did some regression, I could probably do my own birth experience, but just for the purpose of this video, I would translate our birth and our first breath as our initial spiritual initiation, right? That's our first initial spiritual initiation, breath. So unsurmountable pressure pushes us through this threshold or this birth canal or this one world to another world, to life, to birth. So we're all spiritual beings. So it's each and every person's right to have a spiritual experience in whatever way, shape, or form that you see fit, right? So I'm coming through with a respect for all religions. I don't feel like my spirituality is more superior than anyone else's, but I do feel like I've explored quite a bit. And for me, in my experience, earth-based religions are what, not even religion, right? It's not even a religion, it's a way of life, right? But I'm just using a term that might be more translatable. So with that said, I'm gonna move on into ancestry. So for me, ancestry seems like a very important, a very impactful, a very significant piece to any spiritual path. Because when you explore your ancestry, you are making connections to your lineage, you're making connections to a long line of people who came before you, and through that you might discover some practices, that you might be more inclined to connect with. So, say for my own personal ancestry, on my dad's side, and most of my lineage comes from Louisiana. I'm not sure if they extended to other states because I could only go back as far as my grandparents. My great-grandparents, actually. My great-grandparents was as far back as I could get. I am a descendant of West African ancestry, so there is a high chance that a lot of my ancestors were brought over on the slave ships from West Africa during the slave trade, right? So for me, I started to explore African spirituality. I started to explore hoodoo, voodoo. Christianity in Africa is really big also. So that's just an example. For you, it might be something else. Culturally, so not ancestry-wise, my mother who raised me, the only mother that I know, is a Native American woman. She's an Indian woman. She's an indigenous person. I was raised both Catholic and doing indigenous practices, which is fairly common for a lot of indigenous people. So, well, at least in the age group that my mom was in. So my mom passed away in February. She was 80 years old. She went through a lot in her life. She's seen a lot of the changes in the United States. She was born in the 1940s, so she's seen a lot. She grew up, she was born and raised on a reservation, and in her teen years, she decided to leave the reservation and go to Chicago because that's what they were encouraging a lot of Native Indian people to do, is to go to the city and work and make money for their futures, for their livelihoods, for assimilation into American culture. So for me, exploring those practices, reconnecting with indigenous teaching. So when I was young, it was just like second nature. Like it was just a part of my life, right? But then when I found out that I was adopted, when I found out I couldn't be a tribal member, when I found out, the truth, then I started hiding that side of myself, right? Because I felt like I was not being true to myself. So because that raised a lot of emotional turmoil inside of me, I just stuffed it in and I just let it be. And then I started to experience real life circumstances, real loss, real illness, real situations in life where faith, or at least my connection to the Most High, to the Creator, to our Maker, to God, to the great mystery, to the divine, to whatever it is you wish to call it. When that connection became important, I rediscovered my energetic, right? My cultural beliefs that I had been hiding because of my own identity problem. So I met a couple who really helped me reconnect with my indigenous beliefs. And from a young age, I was always involved in Indian youth programs, and I grew up in Chicago, so I went to the Native American Indian Center for different programming, after school programming, powwows, learning to make things, crafts, whatever. So, I mean, it was a big part of my life. I used to dance in powwows. I used to go to powwows. Like, it was, it's a part of my life. So, realizing that I just buried that hurt inside of me was nice to like reconnect, rekindle it, remember, and to have this couple help me and my family like unconditionally was definitely guided by a higher purpose. So I would say ancestry is an important place to start. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? If you don't want to do like DNA testing, that's fine. But talk to your parents, right? Talk to your mother. Find out what she knows about her parents. Talk to your father. Find out what he knows about his parents. If you're in a situation like I was in, do the DNA testing if you feel comfortable. If you don't, talk to another family member. If it's not your parents, talk to your aunt, talk to your uncle, talk to your cousin. It will lead you somewhere. Ancestry is powerful. Your lineage is powerful. There are lots and lots of people behind what you're living here today. And so I think it's just a matter of respect, right? It's a respectful thing to do. Like, knowing your history, your familial history is important. If you're lucky enough to have grandparents, still talk to them, right? Because ancestral veneration is a fancy word for paying respect, right? So ancestral respects can also come from the living, right? From our living elders. So our elders are so precious. There's these precious jewels that often just kind of sit and collect dust until someone comes along and is like, hey, you have all this valuable knowledge. How about I sit down and talk to you about time long ago, times before me? So you can start your ancestral veneration with your living grandparents or aunties or uncles or, your elders in your family. And then if you don't have any, then find some other ones. Like, to be honest, like, there's lots of elderly people out there who are looking for someone to talk to. So if it's not someone directly in your family, talk to a friend of the family. It's a start. It will guide you someplace important, someplace special, someplace meaningful. So that's what it is right there. So exploring your ancestry will lead you to something meaningful. Something meaningful. Number 2, or I guess technically this is like 3. Number 3, I think that connecting to sound was a game changer for me. Connecting to sound in some way. So for me, 3 years ago, I made a hand drum. I watched YouTube videos, I bought a drum kit. I was very overwhelmed and nervous and anxious and whatever, but I did it. I made a drum, I made my very own drum. And for me, that drum is like, if I could live with only one spiritual tool for the rest of my life, it would be that drum. For one, I never thought I could make one. For two, I thought I needed to go to a class. And for three, it really helped me connect and understand the purpose of the drum and the purpose of my drum, right? My intention for making that drum was for prayer, was for ceremony, and was for healing. So for me, my intention for making my drum has to do with prayer, ceremony, and healing. So whenever I play that drum, my drum spirit knows why I play. And whenever I connect to the drum, we understand each other. We connect with each other because I made it. And I think that's true for all spiritual tools. For rattles, I think if you can, try to make one yourself. For drums, if you can, try to make it yourself. For your spirit water, if you can, try to make it yourself at least once. You know, maybe just keep a little bottle special for special times when you need to use it. But sound is powerful. Sound is a powerful, powerful healer. And it's one of the few frequencies that will travel through water. So we were talking about birth and pregnancy and how we're spiritual beings. Sound travels through water. That drum is probably one of the first sounds we hear in utero, in her mama's belly. That's the first thing we hear is her drummer. We hear her little drummer, her heartbeat. Ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. So for us, that is the first, most comforting, most natural sound that we hear is that little drummer in our mama's chest. And then connecting with the drum and connecting with the heartbeat and connecting with the sound, that just brings us back to our natural elements, our first memories, our first experiences. So for me, the drum is very special and very significant to my spiritual journey. Doesn't have to be for yours, but for mine, the drum is a very important part of my spiritual journey. Sound bowls are another way, another important, significant healer that will help to raise your vibrational frequency. It will help to clear your energetic field. Just about any sound can raise the vibrational frequency because sound is connected to our heart chakra. And our heart chakra could be considered one of the most important chakras, but at the very least, it's kind of like a bridge between our upper chakras and our lower chakras. It's a place where we can really hold on to grief, pain, worry, anxiety. So the heart chakra is really important, and sound is an important way to open that chakra up. So for me, I'll show you my drum actually. Show you my drum. She's right here. So my drum is handmade by me. Like I said, she's not perfect, but she's mine, right? I made her with the intention of using her for prayer, for ceremony, and for healing. This is a 16-inch wood frame, drum frame, and this is a deer hide. I wanted to choose deer because I connect with that animal. There are other hides you can use. I'm pretty sure you can use a cow hide, you can use an elk hide, and I'm not sure, there might be other hides you can use too, but those are just the ones I know about: deer, cow, elk, and I'm sure there's probably others, but the drum is probably one of the oldest, I don't know if I would call it tools, but one of the oldest tools for sound, used for sound, one of the oldest tools used for healing, and one of the oldest tools used for ceremony. Women were actually, in indigenous culture, women were actually the first ones to use and play the hand drum. So, you know, she's not perfect, but she's beautiful. It was harder than I thought, but I did it. And I did leave the edges a little fluffy because I wanted her to look sort of girly and different, because I figured, why not? But yes, so the drum is another amazing tool for spiritual growth and healing, more specifically. But the sound bowl, I have a couple of sound bowls also, and the colors of the sound bowl can correlate to the chakra, or it can correlate to something else that you are intending it for. So I have a green sound bowl, and I use that sound bowl with the intention of connecting to the earth. Technically, I think the sound bowl is for the heart chakra, which corresponds with that color green. And I think the note is F. I don't know. The heart chakra, I think, is F or G, but the note corresponds also to the heart chakra. So sound, there's other ways for sound healing also. So we know that we can listen to different hertz of music. You can find drumming music. You can listen to indigenous or Native American church music. For me, that is my music of choice when I'm connecting. When I need to forget about everything else and come to myself. Native American church music or flute music is powerful. Otherwise, chanting, solfeggio frequencies, those are decent, probably for sleep. Ocean sounds, other drums, they have like, I have a water drum, that's cute. I have a steel hand drum, those are cute. Tuning forks, those are very healing also, and probably a little easier to use if you don't feel like you can connect with the drum or a sound bowl. Maybe start with a tuning fork. But yes, those sound waves are healing. So try to find a way to connect with sound. Some Native American church sounds, church music, I would say Gonnie, Louie Gonnie, or it's Gonnie, it might be Gonnie, Louie Gonnie. Fawn is another one. Robert Tree Cody is another one. He plays the flute and he has some amazing sounds. But even on YouTube, you can find Native American church music. So I would encourage you to explore sound. Okay. Next. I have to mention Bob Marley also for sound. He's another good one to listen to. He really has an awakening experience when you really connect to and listen to his words. Listen to his words. Sorry, I just didn't feel right not to say him if I've definitely benefited from his music. The next important way to enhance your spiritual journey is to connect with nature. Connect with nature. So, nature is probably our most significant teacher, right? The ways in which the earth operates, the ways in which our sky is connected to the earth, the ways our planets move, the way the sun shines, the way the moon shines and affects our entire energies, as well as the energies of the water in the earth, is so significant, is so special. And I think so many people miss out on it because they have their nose in a book, or they're too busy watching YouTube, or they're going to retreats, or they're doing this, or, when really what we need to be studying and experiencing and watching and looking at is our natural elements. We need to be studying and learning the natural elements and the natural ways that the earth works and moves through her natural cycles, because it really should be the same for us. But we're the ones who are just like distracting ourselves with all these other things. We're ignoring the earth. We're ignoring what's happening around us. We're not paying attention to the signs and symbols that are right in front of us every single day. We are ignoring the earth. We are ignoring the natural cycles. So I would say, find a way to connect with nature. Force yourself to get outside, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Even if you just sit on your step, sit on your front step and watch a tree for 10 minutes. Sit in a park and watch the animals, the birds, the chipmunks, the squirrels. Go on a hike. Climb a mountain. Look at the land. Explore the land. Find out the history of that land. Find out who walked the earth before you stood on it. Stop using chemicals outside in your lawn. Thank the water. Thank the water. Thank the water. Every time you turn the water on, thank you. Every time you pour your tea, thank you, water. Every time you see a lake, thank you, water. Every time you get your cup or your whatever, thank you, water. Thank you, birds. Thank you, trees. I've learned so, for me, nature, totally game changer. Put the book down. Put the YouTube down. Go outside. Difficult to get past that. I don't like bugs. I don't like this. I don't like that. All gone now. When you start to see the beauty in nature, when you start to see the beauty in the things that you once thought were ugly, you've made some progress. You're getting the picture. So, nature, go out in it, explore it, experience her, study her, thank her, appreciate her. Nature, okay? Next is connecting with animal spirits. So some of us are oracles. Some of us are messengers. Some of us are natural. We naturally attract animals to come out, to be seen, to connect with us in ways that we didn't think they could connect with us. So I particularly connect to birds. My name is Raven. I am a bird, at least partly, you know. So exploring my name, right? Exploring my name, exploring the raven, exploring my namesake, who I was named after, learning the story of the raven. There are lots of different stories about the raven. There's lots of different meanings people can assign to her, but find your own truth, right? Find your own meaning, right? Like if you're having a really bad day and you walk outside and you see this big shining eagle for some reason and you're like, whoa, what is the significance? Ask yourself, what is the significance of this eagle right now? Well, could be change your perspective, right? Eagles, they don't waste time. They don't waste energy. They're responsible. They take care of their babies. They mate for life. They fly high. They carry prayers. Find your own meaning into animal spirits instead of looking it up on Google, you know? If you connect with animals. If you don't, that's okay. But I think if you can at least find one animal that you connect with, it will be beneficial. So I was told that, you know, set an intention for finding your spirit animal the night before or something, or morning of. Set your intention to find your spirit animal. When you wake up the next morning, set your intention to find your spirit animal. And then when you go outside, the first animal that you see, that is your spirit animal. So some prayer, some preparation is involved. You can't, or you can, but you shouldn't just pick one. You know, you have to have some connection to that animal. And I think you should give a little intention to finding your spirit animal beforehand. And then when you go out and look, you'll find it. You'll be awakened to it. And then learn about it. Look up the animal. Watch it for a little while. Find some wildlife videos on that animal and really explore what that animal means to you and how you can apply that animal's spirit to your life or your situation, at least situational. The next way to enhance your spiritual journey includes a little bit of practice or commitment. So I think that finding ways to meditate can be difficult for some people, especially when you're first starting out. A lot of us are distracted by a lot of things, but we have to find ways to connect with ourselves. So finding a way to meditate is probably the best thing you can do. And it doesn't have to be all day. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes. I think even 10 minutes of solid meditation can change your whole outlook on what's happening. So whether you use, like when I started with meditation, I actually started meditation with prayer. So I would connect, center myself, bring myself into balance, bringing my right side into my left side, centering myself. And I would just start with prayer. So I would connect to myself and I would say, Great Spirit, thank you for waking me up this morning. Thank you for my family. Thank you for my husband, my children, my parents, I will go on into this prayer of gratitude. And like before you know it, I would be in like this trance, because then after I prayed, about my immediate family, I would start to think about the people who I knew were going through tough things, and then I would start to pray for them. So I had this mental list of people who needed prayers, and I would just pray for them. And I would bring myself, to a peaceful place before I ended my prayer. But just having that 10 minutes, 15 minutes of time to connect with myself, time to be grateful for what I have, for the people in my life, a time to also pray for others. It really centered me, and it really helped me like develop another and strengthen my practice to meditation. So meditation doesn't always have to be, sitting empty-minded. Meditation is more of like a deep concentration on something that is benefiting you. So that's why a lot of people use a rattle for meditation or journeying too, because it gives them something else to focus on besides, words or prayers or whatever. But in order to get to that point, in order to practice getting your mind set right for meditation, you have to start somewhere. And for me, that's how I started. Then I started adding other things. So like I would have angels that I'll connect with. So I used to connect a lot to Archangel Michael. I used to connect to Archangel Gabriel. I used to connect to, I still connect to them. But I'm saying when I was first starting out, like after I started the prayers and focused on prayers and got comfortable with praying and like sitting somewhere for 15 minutes, really spiritually focusing my heart, my love, my energy, I started to add in other things. So I started to meditate on Archangel Michael. I started to meditate on words. So just meditating on love. Like just sit and meditate on the word love, right? Or the feeling, meditate on the feeling of love, even for 5 minutes, just keep it simple. So yes, I started adding in other things. So I'd meditate on Archangel Michael, on Gabriel, on Uriel. I went through all of the main archangels and connected with them. You can do that for anything. You can meditate on the eagle, say. I've definitely done that. You can meditate on anything that you like if you're wishing to take part or connect to that energy or that spirit. So practice, 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 and don't give up. And find what's unique for you, right? If it's not prayer, if it's not thinking about, your family, your others, then think about something else that is meaningful for you. Like, I don't know, do you like painting? Meditate on painting, meditate on Bob Ross, meditate on Da Vinci, meditate on, what interests you. That's another way that sound is beneficial for meditation, because as I said, Native American church music for me brings me right into meditation. I can go into a zone real quick. But again, it's taken me practice. So the last and final tip for enhancing your awakening spiritual growth is probably the one that is the least popular. And it's probably the one that you don't want to hear. But the truth is that we have to disconnect ourselves from technology. We have to disconnect ourselves from technology. Obviously, we're using technology to connect today, but we're using this technology for good, right? But a lot of times, technology can also be used for bad. And we're not always aware, right? So what I started to realize, I've been pretty disconnected from technology for 3 years. In 2020, I decided I'm done. Like, I don't want to be on social media anymore. So I think I took like a 3-month break or maybe longer. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, you just feel like a whole different person. In some ways, you do feel disconnected from what's happening, but in some ways, you feel disconnected, but more peaceful, more at peace with that disconnection, right? Because when we're on social media, we're constantly bombarded with things. Everything gets thrown at us, whether we want it or not, right? We see things that we don't necessarily want to see or that we're not looking for. And I guess I just started to get really suspicious, right? So like, remember when cell phones first started coming out and getting more popular, and people used to say, like, they're watching us, they're tracking us, it's a mistake, like, and we used to say, oh, they're going way too far with it, whatever. But that's actually true. Like, I'm finding that that's actually true. When you're on your cell phone is designed to keep you on it, okay? I hope everybody realizes this at this point, but if you don't, your cell phone is designed to keep you on it. So, when we see all these images of people like this all the time, or walking and they're still looking at, or with their kids, taking their kids to school and they're like this, or you're at the restaurant and your kids are throwing a fit, but you're like this, or, not to shame anybody, but it's an addiction, right? cell phones are designed to be addictive, right? So anything that you click or tap or open or visit, right? It's being tracked. It's being time stamped. It's being sold, right? It's being sold. We're being tracked. We're being time stamped. We're being sold. Cookies, right? Cookies everywhere. Cookies everywhere now because why? They want your permission to sell your information. They want your permission to track you. They want your permission to give your information to the company who wants to sell you something. We need to disconnect ourselves from technology. To enhance our spiritual development, we need to disconnect ourselves from technology. And we are disrespecting ourselves, right? We're disrespecting ourselves by connecting with an energy or an entity that is not good for us, right? It's preventing us from living our lives, right? Like it's preventing us from paying attention to our kids. It's preventing us from having real, tangible life experiences. It's preventing us from having conversations with people. It's preventing us from looking someone in the eye. It's preventing us from noticing someone needs help, right? I'm not going to keep going on and on, you get the point. But technology has a way of interfering with our spiritual development. That's bottom line. Technology has a way from interfering with our spiritual development when used incorrectly or when used too much, when used addictively, intentionally or unintentionally, right? Nobody's intentionally wants to be addicted to their cell phone, right? Nobody intentionally wants to be addicted to anything, right? Nobody intentionally wants to have that problem, but it happens. So my conscious awareness, my awakening led me to the need to disconnect from social media, disconnect from electronics, read a book, write it out, not type it out, write it out, use a pencil, write it down, don't type it, don't text it, send a letter, pick up the phone, walk over there, use your voice. And I think this became even more significant when I started to see how technology was affecting our children, my children, right? Because I'm a mom. I have 3 kids living in my house right now. I'm a mom of 6, but I have 3 kids at home who are all affected by technology. And it just made me really start to question, like, why, when, where, how did we start to trust technology so much that we're allowing our kids to use their phones all the time? We're allowing them to be on their computers, laptops, tablets, whatever, all the time. They're playing. And it's not all parents. I'm not saying all kids and all parents are all the time. But I'm saying, when did we become so trusting that we allow our kids to be on something all the time? And it's really more of like, I think parents are using technology to watch their kids, raise their kids, distract their kids, keep their kids away from them, which is sad because they don't even see the negativity that's coming to them from this technology that we've just automatically started to trust, that we've just automatically think is okay, that we just we need to just be more careful, especially with our children, but more specifically with spiritual development, spiritual growth, because spirits can affect our technology, and spirits can come through and interfere with our technology and in turn interfere with us. So, I'm not saying don't ever read another article online. I'm just saying, like, be careful, limit yourself, go find a book, go read a book, go to the library, borrow a book. Like, there's other ways. And to be honest, like, what I follow is storytelling. So I'm going to give more value to someone telling me a story and how I feel about the story that they tell me, right? Not just them telling me a story I'm going to take it and be like, oh yeah, it's true. No, how do I feel when they tell me that story? Does it make sense? Does it feel right? Versus something that someone else wrote, right? Because I think we've all been taught that, like, books are the right thing and, like, we should get our information from books. But really, that's not true. Like, books are relatively new too compared to ancient knowledge. Ancient ways. So much of ancient knowledge had to be shared verbally, right? You had to tell someone your story. You had to use your feelings, your emotion, and your experience to get across what you're trying to explain to someone else. So give more credit to oral traditions, verbal speaking, to how that makes you feel versus reading. And obviously, yes, there's lots of good things in books. I'm not saying books are bad, but I'm just saying we need to start giving more respect and appreciation to the way things were done in the past. So by telling a story, by teaching, by showing, by doing. So with that said, I hope you all found something meaningful in my experiences with developing myself spiritually. And I hope that you find a way that helps you at least expand yourself and awaken. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. But until next time, the saga continues.